Commander Jaywin stared at the massive viewing screen as the Rex warships moved into attack formation. Their dark hulls gleamed like polished obsidian against the starfield. Each vessel easily 3 times the size of any human ship. The bridge of the diplomatic station hummed with nervous energy as officers checked their instruments for the 100th time in the past hour. "Sir, they're powering up their plasma cannons," reported Lieutenant Kyungman from his tactical station. His voice cracked slightly despite his years of training. The young officer had never seen weapons of this magnitude before. Each Vrex cannon could vaporize a city block in seconds. Jaywin closed his eyes for a moment, remembering how the day had started. The first official contact between humanity and the Vrex Empire was supposed to be a celebration. Earth's finest diplomats had prepared for months, studying every scrap of information about Vrex culture that the deep space probes had gathered. They thought they understood the aliens' formal protocols and honor-based society. They were wrong. The Vrex ambassador, a towering creature with 6 arms and crystalline skin that shifted colors with its emotions, had turned from pale blue to angry crimson in the span of 30 seconds. The moment Ambassador Chen had offered the traditional human handshake, everything went to hell. What humans saw as a friendly gesture, the Vrex interpreted as a challenge to combat. In their culture, extending an open hand meant you were ready to fight to the death. "You dare mock our ancient ways," the Vrex ambassador had roared, its voice like grinding stone. "Your species shows nothing but contempt for the sacred traditions of the galaxy. No amount of explanation could fix the damage." The Vrex viewed the misunderstanding as deliberate disrespect, an act of war against their entire empire. Within minutes, their diplomatic escort had transformed into an invasion fleet. Now 50 Vrex battleships surrounded the small human station. Their weapons could turn the entire structure into space dust before anyone could even send a distress signal to Earth. The nearest human military fleet was 3 days away. And even if they arrived in time, they would be hopelessly outgunned. Engineering reports, all systems failing, called out Chief Engineer Bora, sweat beading on her forehead despite the station's climate control. "Whatever they're doing to us, it's overloading our power grid. We've got maybe 20 minutes before life support shuts down completely." The Vrex weren't just planning to destroy them quickly. They were slowly draining the station's power, letting the humans suffer before the final blow. It was their way of showing contempt for what they saw as humanity's dishonor. Captain Sejun, the station's military commander, paced behind the tactical displays like a caged tiger. His weathered face showed the strain of command as he ran through possible escape scenarios for the dozenth time. Every option ended the same way, with human ships scattered across the void. "What about the defense? Satellites?" he asked desperately. "Already disabled," Kyungman replied, his fingers dancing across holographic controls. "They hit them first. Those plasma beams went through our shields like they weren't even there." The communications ray crackled with static as the Vrex jamming. Systems interfered with long-range transmissions. Earth knew something was wrong, but they had no idea their first contact mission had become a death sentence for everyone aboard the station. Young communications officer Minho sat at his station, frantically trying to boost signal strength through the alien interference. At 24, he was the youngest member of the senior staff, fresh out of the academy with dreams of bridging the gap between species. Those dreams were turning into nightmares as he watched the countdown timer on his screen tick. Towards the Vrex had given them 1 hour to prepare for a death. 37 minutes remained. "Sir," Minho said suddenly, his voice cutting through the bridge's tense atmosphere, "I might have an idea." Jaywin turned to the young officer, hope flickering in his eyes. "What is it?" "There's someone on Earth who specializes in impossible situations. Dr. Haijan works for the Global Crisis Response Team. She's negotiated with terrorists, diffused international incidents, even talked down a rogue that took over the European power grid last year, a crisis negotiator. Captain Seargent scoffed. These aren't human criminals, son. These are aliens who think we insulted their gods. Minho's fingers flew over his console, pulling up Dr. Hygien's file. Her record was impressive. 97% success rate in situations where other negotiators had failed. She had a reputation for seeing solutions where others saw only problems. She specializes in cultural misunderstandings. Minho pressed on, and she's never lost a case involving honor-based conflicts. The bridge fell silent except for the ominous hum of the wreck's weapons charging outside. 29 minutes remained. On the countdown, Daewon looked at the tactical display showing the enemy fleet, then at the faces of his crew. These people were counting on him to find a miracle. Maybe a crisis negotiator wasn't such a crazy idea after all. The sleek transport ship Soul's Pride dropped out of hyperspace just as the wreck's countdown ended. Its final 10 minutes, Dr. Hygian gripped her seat as the pilot. Captain Wujin pushed the engines beyond their safety limits. Through the viewport, she could see the massive alien fleet surrounding the diplomatic station like predators circling wounded prey. "Those ships are huge," Wujin muttered. His knuckles white on the controls. Each wreck's battleship bristled with weapon rays that could obliterate their tiny transport in a heartbeat. "Doc, are you sure about this? We could still turn round." Hygian shook her head, her dark eyes fixed on the station's flickering lights. She had spent the entire 3-hour journey studying every piece of information humanity had gathered about the wreck's empire, their culture, their history, their rigid codes of honor that governed every aspect of their society. What she discovered made her stomach turn with dread. "No turning back," she said firmly. "Those people are counting on us." The transport's communication system crackled to life. Commander Jaewon's voice came through, strained with desperation. "Dr. Hygian, thank God you made it. But I'm afraid it might be too late. The wreck's commander won't even acknowledge our signals anymore." Through the tactical display, Hygian could see the alien flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Honors. Blade. Its hull was covered in intricate patterns that seemed to shift and move like living things. Weapon ports along its sides glowed with deadly energy, ready to unleash destruction upon the human station. "Patch me through to their commander," Hygian requested as her transport docked with the station. "I need to speak with them." "Directly, they've cut all communication," Jaewon replied over the intercom. 3 minutes ago, they sent one final message. "Prepare for judgment, creatures of deceit." Hygian rushed through the station's corridors, her emergency kit bouncing against her hip. The walls hummed with power fluctuations as the wreck's energy weapons continued to drain their systems. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows as crew members prepared for the worst. She burst onto the bridge just as the final countdown reached 5 minutes. The main screen showed the wreck's fleet in perfect formation, their weapons fully charged and ready to fire. The alien ships moved with mechanical precision, like pieces on a cosmic chessboard. "Show me everything," Hygian demanded, settling into the communications chair. Her fingers flew over the controls, accessing the cultural database they had compiled about the wrecks, their social structure, their beliefs, their concept of honor. Lieutenant Kyungmin pulled up the files on his screen. "They're an ancient warrior race," he explained quickly. "Everything revolves round personal honor and ritual combat. Their society has 16 different levels of honor, and losing face means exile or death." Hygian studied the data, her mind racing. The wrecks weren't just angry about a handshake. They saw the entire human race as fundamentally dishonest. In their culture, every gesture had meaning, Every word carried weight. Humans, with their casual attitudes and flexible social rules, appeared chaotic and untrustworthy to them. 4 minutes remaining, reported Chief Engineer Bora. Her voice tight with fear. The bridge's main display suddenly flickered, and the image of the wreck's commander appeared. The alien was magnificent and terrifying, standing nearly 3 meters, tall with 6 powerful arms and skin that sparkled like crushed diamonds. Its eyes were solid black, showing no emotion that humans could recognize, creatures of Earth. The commander spoke in perfect English, its voice like thunder rolling across mountains. "You have shown dishonor to the sacred traditions. Your deception will be cleansed with fire." "Wait," Haijan called out, standing from her chair. "Commander, I am Dr. Haijan of Earth's Crisis Response Team. I request the right of challenge speech under the ancient protocols." The alien commander's crystalline skin shifted from deep red to surprised orange. Even the bridge crew looked shocked. Challenge speech was a barely understood Vrex ritual that Haijan had found buried deep in there. "Cultural files, you know, of the ancient protocols," the commander asked, its 6 arms moving in what might have been confusion. "How does a species of deceivers possess such knowledge? Because we are not deceivers." Haijan replied calmly, "We are simply different, and difference should not mean death." The countdown stopped at 2 minutes and 37 seconds. The Vrex commander studied her through the screen, its black eyes unreadable, round the station. The alien fleet held their positions but did not fire. "Very well," the commander finally said. "But challenge speech requires the null bridge. Your mind must touch mine directly. Many species have died attempting this ritual." Haijan felt the blood drain from her face. The Neuralink was mentioned, only briefly in their files, a dangerous procedure where to consciousness could communicate directly. If her mind couldn't handle the alien thought patterns, she would be left brain-dead or worse. Captain Siajin grabbed her arm. "Dr. Haijan, you can't. We don't even know if human brains are compatible with their technology." She looked round the bridge at the faces of the crew, young officers who had volunteered for humanity's greatest adventure, only to find themselves facing extinction. Through the viewport, she could see Earth in the distance, a small blue dot completely unaware that war might be coming. "Prepare the neural interface," she said quietly. "It's our only chance." The Vrex commander's skin shifted to a deep purple. What their files indicated was either respect or anticipation of combat. "You show courage, small creature. The neural bridge will be established in 60 seconds. Do not disappoint your species with weakness." The neural interface chamber aboard the Honor's blade looked like something from a nightmare. Twisted metal, cables hung from the ceiling like mechanical vines, each one pulsing with blue energy. Dr. Haijan sat in the center chair, her hands trembling as Vrex technicians attached the neural connectors to her temples. The alien devices felt cold against her skin, and she could hear them humming with power. "The bridge will open in 30 seconds, announced the Vrex commander, who stood nearby in ceremonial armor that seemed to be made from living crystal. "Once our minds touch, there is no escape until the ritual is complete. Are you prepared to face the truth of your species' dishonor?" Haijan closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Through the chamber's transparent walls, she could see the human diplomatic station floating in space, looking tiny and fragile compared to the massive Vrex fleet. Millions of lives depended on what happened in the next few minutes. "I'm ready," she whispered. The neural bridge activated with a sound like thunder splitting mountains. Pain shot through Haijan's head as alien thoughts crashed into her mind like a tidal wave. For a moment, she thought her consciousness would be torn apart by the sheer force of the commander's mental prayers. ENC. Then suddenly, she wasn't Dr. Haijan anymore. She was Commander Vexter of the Honor's Blade, standing on the bridge of his flagship as reports flooded in about the human diplomatic meeting. But the emotions she felt weren't anger or hatred, they were fear and desperate grief. Through Vextar's memories, she experienced the true reason behind the Vrex aggression. The images hit her like physical blows. Vextar's homeworld, Kethmora, was dying. A terrible plague called the Grey Death had swept across the planet, turning the Vrex's beautiful crystalline cities into empty tombs. The disease attacked their unique silicon-based biology, causing their gem-like skin to crumble into dust. Millions had already died, and the Vrex's greatest scientists could find no cure. Hyjan lived through Vextar's memories of watching his own daughter succumb to the plague. She felt his pain as he held her small body while her crystal skin turned grey and brittle. The little girl had been only 50 years old, barely a child by Vrex standards. When the disease claimed her, the diplomatic mission to Earth wasn't about conquest or honor. It was a desperate attempt to find new allies, with different biological knowledge who might help develop a cure. When the human ambassador had extended his hand in what the Vrex interpreted as a challenge to ritual combat, Vextar saw it as humanity mocking their desperate situation. "Your people came to us as healers," Hyjan said, her voice echoing in the shared mental space. "But our translator programs failed us both." Through the Neuralink, she felt Vextar's surprise at her understanding. The alien commander had expected to find deception and cruelty in the human mind instead. He discovered something he had never encountered before: the ability to feel empathy for a completely different species. Hyjan opened her own memories to the alien commander. She showed him the great disasters of human history and how her species had survived them: the Black Death of medieval Europe, the 1918 flu pandemic, the climate disasters of the early 21st century. In each case, humans had faced extinction and somehow found ways to endure. She shared her memory of the Great Tokyo earthquake of 2089. When she was just a child, her family had been trapped in the ruins of their apartment building for 3 days. She remembered how strangers had dug through the rubble with their bare hands to save people they had never met. How communities had shared their last bits of food with refugees. How hope had somehow survived even in the darkest moments. Vextar experienced human emotion for the first time through Hyjan's memories. He felt the warmth of compassion, the strength that came from cooperation, and most surprisingly, the human ability to find light in the deepest darkness. Where Vrex culture emphasized individual honor and rigid tradition, humans seemed to thrive on adaptation and mutual support. Your species. Vextar's mental voice was filled with wonder. You face impossible odds and still believe tomorrow will be better than today. How is this possible? Hyjan showed him more memories. The development of the first AIDS vaccine through international cooperation, the rebuilding of cities destroyed by war, the colonization of Mars despite a dozen failed missions. Each time, humans had refused to give up when logic said they should. We call it hope, she explained through the Neuralink. Even when everything seems lost, we believe we can find the way forward. The alien commander's mind reeled as he processed these foreign concepts. In Vrex society, failure meant dishonor and exile. There was no tradition of learning from mistakes or building on previous defeats. Yet somehow, this chaotic human approach had allowed them to survive catastrophes that would have destroyed most species. Yes, the Grey Death, Vextar said suddenly. Our healers say it cannot be cured because it attacks the fundamental structure of our biology. But your memories show humans solving impossible problems by trying approaches that seem illogical. Hyjan felt hope surge through the neural connection. Our medical researchers love impossible challenges, she said. We've learned that sometimes the craziest ideas work best through the mental bridge. She could sense the Vrex commander's worldview shifting, the rigid categories of honor and Dishonor that had governed his entire life suddenly seemed less important than the possibility of saving his people. "If we were to work together," Vextar asked hesitantly, "would your species truly help us, even after we threatened to destroy you?" The answer came not in words but in pure emotion. The deep human instinct to help others in need, regardless of past conflicts. Vextar felt it wash over him like warm sunlight after a long winter. For the first time in years, the Vrex commander dared to hope. The neural bridge disconnected with a sharp crack that left both Hyjan and Commander Vextar gasping. The human doctor collapsed back in her chair, her mind reeling from the alien memories that now lived alongside her own. She could still feel echoes of the Vrex commander's grief for his lost daughter, and the desperate hope that had flickered to life during their mental connection. Vextar's crystalline skin had shifted to a soft golden color. What Hyjan now understood meant contemplation and uncertainty. The massive alien stood perfectly still for nearly a minute, processing everything he had experienced through the human mind. "The weapons will power down," he finally announced to his bridge crew. "Signal the fleet. All attack protocols are suspended." The Vrex officers looked shocked. Their skin colors flickered through various shades of confusion and concern. One of them, a younger commander with silver markings on his armor, stepped forward. "But, Commander, the High Council's orders were clear. The humans must be punished for their dishonor." Vextar's eyes fixed on his subordinate with an intensity that made the younger alien step back. "I have seen into the human mind, Sub-Commander Krechtel. They are not what we believe them to be." Aboard the human diplomatic station, alarms suddenly went silent as the Vrex weapons signatures disappeared from the tactical displays. Commander Jaywin stared at his screens in disbelief, hardly daring to breathe as the massive alien fleet began to pull back from attack formation. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from Dr. Hyjan," Communications Officer Minho reported, his voice cracking with relief. "She's requesting an immediate conference with Earth Command and the Vrex leadership." 20 minutes later, the main conference room aboard the Honors Blade hosted the most important diplomatic meeting in human history. Dr. Hyjan sat at a crystalline table across from Commander Vextar, while holographic displays showed the faces of Earth's leaders and the imposing figures of the Vrex High Council. The High Council chambers on the Vrex home world looked like a cathedral made of living gems. 12 ancient Vrex elders sat in judgment, their skin colors cycling through deep purples and angry reds as they debated humanity's fate. Their leader, an enormous creature called the Prime Honor, spoke with a voice that rumbled like an earthquake. "Commander Vextar, your report is troubling," the Prime Honor said. "You claim these humans are not deceivers, yet they violated our most sacred protocols. The punishment for such dishonor is extinction." Hyjan stood slowly, feeling the weight of 2 entire civilizations on her shoulders. "Prime Honor, with respect, I believe there's been a fundamental misunderstanding. Our species made a translation error, not a deliberate insult. Translation errors are the excuse of the weak," another council member interjected, his skin flushing angry scarlet. "Honor demands action, not words." "Then let us take action," Hyjan said, her voice growing stronger. "Commander Vextar has shared with me the true crisis facing your people. The Great Death is killing your children, your future. Instead of destroying each other, why not work together to save them?" The conference room fell silent, even through the holographic displays. The tension was thick enough to cut with a knife. Captain Doyen, who had been quietly observing from the back of the room, stepped forward. "Dr. Hyjan is right," he said firmly. "Earth's best medical minds are already working on theoretical solutions based on the biological data Commander Vextar provided. But we need to see the plague firsthand, study it directly." The Prime Honor's massive form leaned forward, his black eyes unreadable, you would travel to Kethmora. To the plague world itself, if that's what it takes, Doyen replied. Without hesitation, my ship, the New Soul, is equipped with the most advanced medical laboratory in the human fleet. We could reach your home world in 6 days. The Vrex High Council erupted in discussion, their skin colors flashing through the entire spectrum. As they debated, some showed the deep purple of intrigue, others the red of suspicion. Commander Vextar watched the proceedings with golden skin, his hope growing stronger with each passing moment. This is unprecedented, the Prime Honor finally said. No alien species has ever been permitted to enter our core systems, and no human crew has ever volunteered for a mission this dangerous, Earth's president replied through the holographic link. Captain Doyen's ship would be completely at your mercy once it reaches Vrex space, Idan saw. The perfect opportunity. That's exactly why this could work, she said, addressing both the human and Vrex leaders. Trust has to start somewhere. We're willing to put our lives in your hands to help save your people. She turned to face the High Council directly. Your culture values honor above all else. What could be more honorable than to former enemies working together to preserve life? Commander Vextar's skin shifted to brilliant gold as he spoke to his superiors, Prime Honor. I have experienced human memories through the Null Bridge. Their species has survived impossible challenges by refusing to accept defeat. They see solutions where we see only problems, our precision, their creativity. Sub-Commander Krechtel added suddenly, his own skin shifting to thoughtful blue. The combination could achieve what neither species could accomplish alone. The Prime Honor was quiet for a long moment, his ancient eyes studying the human phases in the holographic displays. Finally, his skin shifted to the deep green of momentous decisions. Very well, he rumbled. One human ship may travel to Kethmora under full Vrex escort, but be warned, if this is deception, your entire species will pay the price, Captain. Doyen smiled grimly. We understand the stakes, Prime Honor. When do we leave? Immediately, Commander Vextar replied, his skin now shining with hope. Every day we delay, more of my people die. The impossible mission was about to begin. The New Soul dropped out of hyperspace above Kethmora, and Captain Doyen felt his breath catch in his throat. The Vrex home world was both beautiful and heartbreaking, a planet of crystalline spires that should have sparkled like diamonds in the sunlight, but instead looked dull and grey. Entire sections of the massive cities lay dark and abandoned, monuments to the plague that was slowly killing an entire civilization. My God, whispered Dr. Sujin from the medical bay, watching the planet through the ship's cameras. How many people lived down there? 12 billion before the Grey Death began. Commander Vextar replied quietly, his skin a somber shade of deep blue. Now perhaps half that number remain. The human medical team had spent the entire 6-day journey studying Vrex biology and the plague samples that Vextar had provided. Dr. Sujin, Earth's leading expert in silicon-based life forms, had worked round the clock with her team of researchers. What they discovered was both fascinating and terrifying. The Grey Death wasn't just a disease. It was a synthetic virus designed to attack the specific crystalline structure of Vrex biology. Someone had created it as a weapon, though the Vrex had no idea who their enemy might be. The virus was so precisely engineered that it seemed impossible to cure. Impossible problems require impossible solutions, Sujin had said during one of their planning sessions. If we can't fight the virus directly, maybe we can teach the Vrex immune system to fight differently. As the New Soul descended through Kethmora's atmosphere, escorted by a full squadron of Vrex fighters, the human crew got their first close look at the devastation. The crystalline cities were architectural marvels, buildings that grew like living gems from the planet's surface, connected by bridges of pure light that pulsed with energy. But too many of those lights had gone dark. The medical facility where they would work was located in the planet's capital. A massive structure that reminded Doyen of a cathedral made from rainbow-colored crystal, Vrex. Medical staff moved through, the halls like ghosts, their skin colors muted with grief and exhaustion. Many of them had been working for months without rest, desperately searching for a cure that seemed to slip further away with each passing day. Dr. Sujin, the chief Rex healer, an ancient female named Zethara, greeted them with skin that flickered between hope and despair. "We have prepared everything you requested. Though I confess we do not understand your methods," Sujin smiled as she surveyed the combined human Vrex laboratory. Advanced alien technology sat alongside Earth's most sophisticated medical equipment, creating a workspace that looked like something from a dream. "That's okay," she said cheerfully. "I don't understand them either, but they usually work." The human approach to medicine was completely different from anything the Vrex had tried. Where the aliens used precise, calculated treatments that targeted specific biological processes, humans preferred to throw everything at a problem and see what stuck. Sujin's team began developing dozens of different treatment approaches simultaneously, each one more unconventional than the last. "What if we don't try to kill the virus?" Sujin suggested during their third day of research. "What if we teach it to be something else?" The Vrex researchers looked confused. Zephara's skin shifted to puzzled orange. "Viruses cannot be taught, Dr. Sujin. They simply replicate and destroy. Earth viruses, maybe," Sujin replied, her eyes bright with excitement. "But this virus was designed to be smart. It can recognize and adapt to Vrex biology. What if we give it something better to do than killing?" Working together, the human and Vrex teams began developing what Sujin called a redirect protocol. Instead of trying to destroy the Grey Death virus, they would reprogram it to repair the damage it had caused. The virus's own adaptation mechanisms would be turned against itself, transforming it from a weapon of destruction into a tool of healing. The breakthrough came on their 7th day. A young Rex patient, barely more than a child, volunteered to test the experimental treatment. Her name was Velandra, and she reminded everyone of Commander Vextar's lost order. Her crystal skin had already begun to turn grey, and traditional treatments had failed to slow the disease's progress. "The nanobots are working," Dr. Sujin announced, her voice filled with wonder as she watched the medical displays. "The virus is actually reversing course, rebuilding the damaged crystal matrix." Within hours, Velandra's skin began to regain its natural blue-green sparkle. The Grey Death virus, reprogrammed by the joint human-Rex technology, was healing instead of harming. More importantly, the treatment appeared to provide permanent immunity against future infections. News of the cure spread across Kethmur like wildfire. Within days, millions of Rex were receiving the treatment, and the planet's darkened cities began to glow with life once again. The crystal spires that had stood empty for months were filled with celebration as families reunited and hope returned to their world. Commander Vextar stood on the observation deck of the New Soul, watching his home world come back to life. His skin glowed with the pure gold of overwhelming joy as he spoke to Captain Doyen. "Your people have given us back our future," he said simply. "How can we ever repay such a gift?" "You already have," Doyen replied with a smile. "You showed. US were not alone in the universe." The formal ceremony took place in the Great Assembly of Kethmora, where representatives from across the Vrex Empire gathered to witness humanity's acceptance into the Galactic Confederation. Dr. Hyjan stood before the massive crowd. No longer just a crisis negotiator, but Earth's first official ambassador to the stars. Today, to species that almost destroyed each other have instead chosen to build something greater together. She said, her words translated into dozens of alien languages. This is humanity's gift to the galaxy. The belief that any problem can be solved if we work together. The Vrex High Council, their skin colors cycling through every shade of joy and celebration, officially welcomed Earth as a full member of the Confederation. Humanity would have access to alien technology, trade routes, and most importantly, the friendship of species who had learned to see past their differences. As the new soul prepared to return to Earth with news of their success, Dr. Hyjan looked out at the stars with wonder. The universe was vast and full of challenges, but for the first time in human history, they wouldn't have to face them alone. The crisis that had brought a species to the brink of war had instead opened the door to humanity's greatest adventure, and it was only the beginning, the end.